Today's video is all about machining my castings that I've poured in previous videos, and the first casting I'll be machining is the vise nut. Now, why do I need a vise nut? Have a look at this. This is the original nut. Not real good, is it? Right, I've encountered a bit of a problem. I've got the quick change box set to 6 TPI, which this thread is, and see the tool there? It's in between the two threads. Now watch when I switch it on. It's a different thread per inch it's cutting. So, why wouldn't it cut 6 TPI? Well, I found out why it wouldn't. There it is, it's set at 6. So when we move over to here, get this focused properly, there it is. It says 42 teeth driver gear. I didn't know you had to change that, so we'll have a look at the change box on the other side. So here is that mysterious 42 teeth gear, and what's connected now is a smaller one. That's why I couldn't get 6 TPI. Now I've sorted out the problem with the gears. Now watch this, I'll switch it on and you'll see it stay in between the two valleys of the thread. Now this is why it's so important to know if your threads are right. It's no use cutting a thread and then find it's one thread too many or too little. It's not going to fit. Right, we've got the vise nut. I've cleaned it up in various spots where the sand broke away. Now it's ready to go and put into the 4-jaw chuck and be able to start machining it. This is how I set up the 4-jaw chuck with the casting. I just used the tool bit that's in from the last machining job and just put it to the edge there, and you just follow that radius. That usually sets it up pretty good. And the other thing I go by, just use a steel rule as a right angle square to see if it's roughly right. The tip tool I used to machine this wasn't quite at centre height, so it's left a little bit of a pimple or marker, and that's to my advantage. So now I can go across 15mm, 15mm, 15mm. Now I know that that hole is going to be exactly in the centre of that boss. Now I need to know the diameter of the hole. I've got a bore, so I use a vernier and go across to the minor diameter of the thread and get a rough idea of that, and then add a clearance dimension. So I've got to make it slightly larger than that so it won't catch on any burrs and it'll spin freely when I've cut the thread. This little counter bore is the last but very important step. That outer diameter of the counter bore is this diameter with a little bit of clearance. So where it's used all the time, it's probably a bit more worn here, but it's a little bit larger here and here. So I have to allow for that so it'll go through. I'm ready now to cut the vise nut, 6 threads per inch. Now I've finished cutting the thread. We'll see how well it fits in there. That's looking good. Now I'll do a trial assembly of the vise nut. Yep, it's one working vise again. This is how the gears were positioned before I had to change them around. So that's the 42 teeth back in its original position from where it was up there, and the original driver gears back there again. This is the second iron casting I will be machining. It is the surface plate. It's quite a large casting. My forge almost will not hold it any bigger, and I would have been in trouble there. I couldn't hang on to it. Another problem with this casting is the corners are so large I've had to take out the gap in the bed so the corners could swing around and not hit my bed of the lathe. Machined the back face, and now we're coming to the most important part of the surface plate, the working surface. Now have a look at here. There's very little gap since I've taken the gap bed out. It's very close. I nearly made the mistake when I made this pattern that I was going to make it a lot thicker, but I thought no, I better not. Yes, and you can see there's not much of a gap in between there. There is one problem I've encountered. Have a look at this. The tool is in the centre position. Now when I wind it out, I haven't got enough travel. That's fully wound out, the travel. You'll see just there, I've got about 20 millimetres I can't cut, so I'm going to have to do it in 2 goes. This is the situation so far. I've machined some off it, but as I said, it's got these little dips in there that's caused by sand expansion. But here it's normal cast iron, and hand here we've got the chill. So what I've got to do is grin and bear it and machine until I get down to that lower level there, and it'll be a softer cast iron. Now I've reached the end of the travel with the cross slide, and you can see here I've got to go from there to there. So what I'll do, I'll reposition the tool post and then cut that off. But there's another problem I've got here, and I'll show you a close-up shot. Here's the problem I've got. Right in the corner we've got white cast iron mixed with grey cast iron. It's rather hard, it's hard on the tool. So what I'll have to do, I'll put an angle grinder in the tool post and grind that last bit off. The rest of the cast iron over there is very soft, beautiful to machine. The angle grinder has been mounted in a quick and dirty little tool post holder I've made for it. We've welded it up. We'll just go around. There we go. We'll start grinding. The angle grinder rotates in that direction, and normally the lathe rotates in that direction, so probably won't cut as good, so I'll have to reverse and get it running in the backwards direction like that. Well, the grinder works okay. One thing I've found is this speed has to be very slow. I had it too fast, and what would happen is about here it seemed to chatter just like a normal cutting tool. You've got to remember these things here haven't got precision bearings, so they tend to bounce a bit, and I thought it would bounce actually here, but it didn't. But overall it's come out reasonably good for a rough and ready setup.